welcome to the first ever webinar for the funded cyber support programme for accountants, hosted by Lugo and funded by the Scottish Government. And today we're basically going to go over the kind of current landscape for cybersecurity in accountancy firms, what those kind of standards could kind of lead to, and why it needs to be improved and how it can be improved using Cyber Essentials. I am Michael Kleinman. I am the cybersecurity consultant that is funded by the Scottish Government, and I'm also working in conjunction with Lugo to help support firms across Scotland get the security support they need and help them achieve Cyber Essentials, more importantly. Today I am joined by Liz and Jeremy, and let's hear from Liz first.
Hi Michael, thanks for that. So my name is Liz Smith, and I'm the Business Development Director here at Lugo. And we predominantly provide IT support to accountancy firms throughout Scotland. Makes up about 50% of our client base. So I wouldn't say there's any other IT support firm out there that knows accountants quite like we do. We came from an accountancy background as well, so we can't really get away from it, to be fair. So we're here to support you, and we have worked in conjunction with ICAS really since not long after we were founded back in 2003. So it's a long and strong partnership that we're very proud of. And I'll hand over to Jeremy.
Thanks, Liz. I'm Jeremy Clarke, Assistant Director of Practice at ICAS. Many of you will know me. I spend quite a lot of my time talking to owners of accountancy practices up and down the country, and sometimes that touches on IT, software, and hopefully in the future a little bit of cybersecurity.
Thank you, Jeremy and Liz. A bit about my background. I studied ethical hacking for 4 years at Aberdeen University. I was a part-time ethical hacking consultant for a good majority of that. I've also kind of been embedded in cybersecurity for a while. I've worked in a SOC, so a Security Operations Center, that monitors these kind of threats day to day. And I've also done some fraud investigation over in the States too. So I've been around the block when it comes to cyber. And between the three of us, we should be able to give you guys a good lay of the land when it comes to cyber and accountancy firms and how it affects them. Again, the main premise of this is to make you aware that for 1 year only, we have funded cyber support for accountants. Okay, and that runs out around the end of next year as well. So it's really important that you kind of get on the ball with this stuff, especially with how long it takes to get Cyber Essentials. It can be, sometimes it can take a few months, so it's best to do it as soon as possible, especially before the tax submission in January. Really important to get the ball rolling because you'll probably be locked up during December and January. So please register your interest with us. We'll throw some links in at the end. But again, we cannot stress it enough how essential Cyber Essentials is. Okay. Now, to get a little bit of a lay of the land with what cybersecurity currently looks like in accountancy firms, we're going to have a quick chat with Jeremy. So, Jeremy, what do you think the current level of cybersecurity is with accountancy firms across Scotland right now?
Well, Michael, the fact that we're fully supporting Lugo in this, and we're absolutely delighted that the Scottish Government are providing this funding, is an answer to the question. It's not great. I think that a lot of accountancy firms think they're better than they are when it comes to cybersecurity. And there's a lot of Jacks out there. I'm all right, Jack. And I think that's really quite dangerous. My wife's a teacher, and one of her favourite sayings to me is could do better. And I think in this case, accountancy firms could do a lot better.
Absolutely, absolutely. So from that accountancy kind of background, what are kind of the most common threats that you think firms in Scotland will face, regardless of their cybersecurity? Like,
well, the ones I hear about from members are the phishing. I mean, that's happening all the time. Hardly a day goes by before everybody's getting, one or two phishing attempts at them. Mm-hmm. Ransomware attacks are becoming increasingly common, and just general data corruption, people getting in and having a wee rummage around and messing things up. And the other thing, I suppose, is bring your own device. A lot of firms now, especially with the pandemic, letting their employees use their own devices, or having to let their employees use their own devices, and the dangers that that brings. So there's quite a few potential threats out there that firms face.
That's quite an interesting point you raise as well, Jeremy. The fact that pre-pandemic we were like, okay, what's everything we have to be aware of security centric? Okay, it's everything in our office, maybe our office in Aberdeen too. But now you kind of have to consider, okay, home security. Can they access all of our files from their home? Can they use their own laptops to access company data? That's where the lines tend to blur, and that's why Cyber Essentials is almost doubly important during this kind of work from home lifestyle we've got going on.
Yeah. There's just on the complacency thing, I think that's a huge threat to firms as well, because I don't think a lot of firms realize how attractive they are to hackers.
Absolutely.
The data that accountancy firms hold, basically there's a lot of personal data. Add that to a lot of financial data, and it's actually a criminal's heaven. You know, it's the gold mine, it's the pot at the end of the rainbow.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of firms are maybe a bit blasé about the data they hold and how valuable that might be to other people.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of incredible the amount you can do with something like, say, a basic email address. If you know someone's background, you know how they talk, seen some of their drafts. For example, email the company, get a response, you have a letterhead now, and you can impersonate a person as much as you like. Imagine what you could do with a sort code and a bank account number, never mind an email address. So yeah. The damage is pretty limited. And speaking of these damages, what kind of damages particularly would affect accountancy firms? We've mentioned a little bit about the kind of value of their data, but what about stops to business, that kind of thing? How would that affect your firm?
Well, the reputational damage to start with, if you lose personal data and have to tell your clients that you've done that, it doesn't go down well. At the very least, you know, you're going to have an inconvenience of having to reinstall software, data, do backups, that sort of thing. That takes time. It distracts people from doing the day job. It's just really inconvenient. But at the worst end of it, you could be down for a long time. You could not be able to operate as a business for a period of time, and you know that's pretty drastic.
How long do you think it would take to resolve some of these issues that accountancy firms will face?
I think that very much depends on a couple of things: the severity and the nature of the attack, obviously, but also how good your IT people are, how good your backups are, how good your staff are at dealing with it. So it could be a matter of hours. That's unlikely. It's more likely to be days. It could even be weeks, especially if HMRC get wind of it and they cut your agent services account. I've heard of that happening on a couple of occasions, and that can take literally months to get your agent access reinstated. So if you can't file corporation tax returns, personal tax returns for months, that's a serious issue for your business.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It's also interesting you mentioned backups. Everyone's like, oh, I've got a backup, I've got a backup. How often do you actually back up that backup? You know, how often do you refresh it? How often do you keep updated? Little things like that can make all the difference. So, kind of recovering from these damages, do you think it could be quite a severe impact on the business side of things in terms of their reputation and such?
Undoubtedly. One of the requirements of GDPR is if you do have a data breach and it's personal data, you have to tell your clients. Mm-hmm. Even once you resolve the technical issues and get your IT, your software back up and running and whatever, actually smoothing over that potential damage with clients could take a lot longer. You might lose clients. Even if you don't lose clients, you've got a trust issue that you've got to resolve. So better not going there in the first place, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's also another interesting part of reputation there. And once a company actually gets Cyber Essentials, they get added to kind of this directory of all the kind of companies in Scotland that have Cyber Essentials. And when comparing kind of accountancy firms to take your business to, that could be a large factor that I think would impact that decision of a client in the future. Thank you for that insight, Jeremy. Now moving over to Liz to get a little bit more information on the Cyber Essentials side of things. Do you think that accountancy firms in Scotland could be doing more to reduce their kind of chances of cyber attacks happening to them, and what specifically could they do?
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that accountancy firms can do, but I think it's important to just start with the basics. And it starts at education. You know, it's really just as plain and simple as making sure that all staff are educated on the importance of being cyber aware. And that education really has to filter from the top down. So it needs to be something that's been driven as part of the strategy of the firm, and that everyone is bought into it. It's not a take it or leave it. It's a, this is the way that we do things, and there's no option really. The other thing that would be the basic, as we've talked about before, would be cyber essentials. We know from research that we did back during Cyber Scotland Week this year. We ran an ICAS webinar and we asked attendees if they'd heard of cyber essentials.
Yeah.
And only 50% of people had heard of it. So we know that there's an education piece out there in terms of letting practices know the benefits of going through cyber essentials and getting that certification. And yeah, I think that would be the two main things, would just be to educate people on cyber in general and the importance of it, and then just to educate yourself as a firm on the benefits of cyber essentials, which we'll go into shortly.
Excellent. Definitely agree with you in terms of the education. Like, we have all the guts, the IT, the multi-factor authentication, the firewalls and stuff, but if someone doesn't know how to handle things appropriately when it comes to data and their client's data, especially, that can have damaging effects. You mentioned the education side of things. Do you think there's enough general awareness of these cyber threats within accountancy firms in Scotland?
Yeah, well, I think in general, accountants are relatively aware of the different types of threats that are out there. They've probably seen, you know, dodgy looking emails coming into their email accounts, whether they've clicked on that link and put in their details into the fake Office 365 login screen. Is yet to be decided. You can tell me that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of threats that accountancy firms are aware of. But as Jeremy said earlier, I don't think they're really aware of the impact that if they really had a bad breach, of how that would negatively impact their firm and their business reputation. It's not something that you can easily repair. You know, once your reputation is gone, then it's gone. And we know from looking at the Cyber Essentials database of firms that have already been certified, there's a minute number of accountancy firms that are on that database at the moment. So if you were one of the first ones to get on there, then you would be setting yourselves apart, as Michael was saying. You know, it's getting you onto that list of certified firms that really take their cyber seriously.
Exactly. Very, very good point, Liz. Especially with the, you know, there is an awareness of it, but not the consequences of what these attacks can be. For example, you know, you're always prepared for a fire drill. You don't expect a fire to happen, but you're prepared for it. What happens when a fire goes off? Oh, you head downstairs, you don't run, you don't take your stuff. What happens when you hit a cyber attack? You know, what do you do? Are you to blame? How do you handle it? And, you know, equipping firms and their clients with this kind of information is invaluable. One, for peace of mind, and two, for preparedness, because it is a matter of time. It's not an if, but a when. So we really need to kind of reaffirm those ideas and make people aware of it. You did touch on cyber essentials there. Why do you think it would be such a benefit for accountancy firms to actually have cyber essentials?
Yeah, with Cyber Essentials, you're really, it works on kind of 5 main technical controls. And they're really basic things, you know, things such as making sure that you've got a firewall that's kept up to date with its services. It's not an old device that's out of date and won't help you at all. You're making sure that on a day-to-day basis, people are not using their computer with full admin rights, so that if, you know, a dodgy bit of software ended up on their computer, it couldn't run because it doesn't have the admin rights to do so.
Yeah.
And just, you know, simple things like making sure that your passwords, you have a relevant password policy, your passwords are secure, and you switch on things like multi-factor authentication. Cyber Essentials takes you through all these very basic things that just really set you apart from the competition in terms of, hackers. They're looking for the low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
They're looking for the easy targets. And as you may have heard me say before, you don't need to outrun the bear, you just need to outrun the person next to you. So if you take on Cyber Essentials, you know that you have that baseline security to see you through and to make you less of a target than the accountancy firm next to you.
Excellent point there, Liz. The fact that it is just about dissuading them from seeing you as a viable target is exactly what we're trying to do with Cyber Essentials. So we'll just come on to our closing section now, and can I get a bit of advice from both of you? One little essential part that you would gift to a firm in Scotland on how they can improve themselves and protect their clients and their employees. Jeremy?
I think do Cyber Essentials. This is a great opportunity. Get the basics covered, and don't do it yourself. You wouldn't rewire your house and put your trust in your own abilities to do that. And I think with cybersecurity, we're not talking IT here. We're talking something different from IT. Cybersecurity is different from just having your IT in place. And I think it's a sort of area where unless you are the best of enthusiastic amateurs, you're not going to be as bad as the worst of professionals at it, and certainly the worst of the professional hackers. So, they've got the edge on you. Get somebody on alongside, like Lugo, doing this, who know what they're doing and can help you protect yourself better so that you don't get electrocuted.
Exactly. Very good point there, Liz. Oh, sorry, Jeremy. And yourself, Liz?
Yeah, just exactly what Jeremy says. I think this is a unique opportunity. The Scottish Government don't give out funding. This is the first time they've given out funding for anything like this. It's really a unique opportunity for you as an accountancy firm in Scotland to take the support of Michael and this cyber-funded project to work with Lugo and to go through Cyber Essentials. We know of firms that have in the past, they've thought about doing it, but there's always more important things to do in their minds. And it's right. I mean, you have your own business, you need to concentrate on your clients and your delivery of service. However, if something was to happen and that delivery of service couldn't happen, then you would definitely regret the fact that you hadn't gone through Cyber Essentials. So take the support when it's on offer. Sign up to the next webinar. We're going to be hosting our first live webinar on the 27th of October at 11 AM. So please sign up for that. We'll be sharing links for that later on. But take the opportunity. It's a unique chance for you to be supported with hopefully little disruption to your day-to-day working life.
Perfect. Thank you, Liz, and thank you to both of you for joining me today and helping lay a bit more grounds in terms of what the landscape for cybersecurity is for accountancy firms, why Cyber Essentials is so essential. Thank you all for watching as well. Please register your interest with this project, as it's very, very rare, as was mentioned, and it's only got a 1-year limited time offer. So we're able to do this for free. I'm able to come over and actually assist you and figure out what you need to know for your Cyber Essentials. And I cannot stress how important this is. As Jeremy said, don't risk electrocuting yourself. Okay. We'll also add some links on screen now for where you can sign up to the webinar, and another link to what, if you want to learn more about what Cyber Essentials is. Again, try and do this as soon as possible, because it can take a month or two to go through the process, at the very least, depending on how far behind you are and how much support you need. But again, that support is free, and I'm here to help. We will help you sort out your cybersecurity before it's too late, but you kind of got to do it before it's too late. That's the key point. Okay? No matter of if, it's a matter of when. So again, thank you very much for your time, and please join us on our first live webinar on the 27th of October at 11 AM.